So by the end, at the beginning, I said I didn't really know how to evaluate this. By the end, I think there's enough. It's difficult enough to remove things that I think this will actually be better than I originally looked at it. Like there were a few things I said I'll come back to this, right? For that, I think this will be a little bit better than I thought it was at first glance. Even though you may not get this value, I think a 3/4 flyer in this with the removal that I'm seeing isn't actually a bad play. So you may want one or two of these as finishers in a deck with soldiers. It's not going to be a high pick by any stretch, but it might be actually like an upper low pick as opposed to like a low pick. So there's that. I don't think there's enough Unearth for Calamity's Wake to be that great. That said, it's a nice sideboard card in best of 3. So consider that there. I do think that Lay Down Arms is going to be very, very good on those things. This, to get back the Unearth, I still don't know that it's going to be I don't know that this is going to be all that useful. It does protect. You can attack with multiple things and then save the thing that they profitably block. Certainly, you can also save an Unearth thing. So it's an interesting card. It's not great. I think that most of the other stuff that we valued is going to be about as suggested. I do think the 3 Power Stone token one, I'm ready to be wrong on it in green. I'm ready to be wrong on it, but I really still think this is unplayable here at 5 mana. I think the format is still a little bit faster than that, but I could be misreading the format. So anyway, that's the just like thoughts having finished that particular set review. So now let's go into advanced, and the sacrifice are good. Yeah. All the best stuff to sacrifice the mystical archive print. Thanks. Okay. All right. No, the sac deck that I saw looks very interesting and strong. So let's from the commons and uncommons, and now let's take a look at the rare and mythics. So sort by the color. Now let's look at this craziness. Okay, so we have In the Trenches. It's an anthem already. Anthems can be very, very strong and limited. Double white isn't as hard to do in this because it does seem to be pushing somewhat, at least very heavy one color decks as opposed to heavily one color as opposed to, and splashing a second as opposed to heavily 2 colors. So that it does seem to be pushing for that. So this is a good card, period. If you also get exile target non-land permanent you don't control, that is gross. So it also doubles as in late game as a removal spell, just to get your final, attack in. This card is sick and gross. Okay. So yeah, that's the first pickable card, absolutely. Kayla's Command, choose 2. So we have versatility. Create a 2/2, put a +1/+1 counter creature under control. It gains double strike until end of turn. That can end a game, definitely. Search for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. Gain 2 life and destroy 2. The versatility on this card means it's always a first pickable card. It's not a bomb, but it is a very nice card. So not S tier, not really even A tier. I would give it a B+. Like it'd be a on the lower end of high picks. This would be probably on the medium end of high picks. It's not just like an automatic win. Like maybe this card. We'll get there. If they don't remove it, this is not good. All right. Kayla's Reconstruction. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put up to X artifact and or onto the battlefield. Interesting. I could see whiffing with that. I think that's a lower high pick. Well, it might even be like an upper medium pick. It depends on the build. You can prioritize and build around it, or if your deck already meets its criteria, this would be an okay pick. So at 6 mana, you're getting maybe 3. I think it's still like a medium pick, actually. It could be like medium lower end of medium. I don't think this is a high pick at all. Lauren of the Third Path, 2-1 for 3. Not great stats. Vigilance doesn't matter. When it enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. Okay, that's going to be a high pick in this set. Absolutely. You and target opponent each draw a card. Okay, that's a text box that I don't really like. But there is a chance that, like, if you had to play some of the, like, the things that benefit from drawing 2 cards in a turn, right? You might want to run this, even though you're giving opponents cards too. I don't see this being, the second part being all that relevant all that often, but I do, obviously, the destroy to target artifact or enchantment is already enough to play it. It is also a legendary creature to note. There is an uncommon legendary creature that grave digs for an artifact or creature, and does so again for every time a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control. So this is worth it for that too. Now we have this. So this is a high pick, but a lower end of high pick. Now we get to this. 4 for a 3/4. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. That's already very lovely. The 3/4 for 4 is not a great stat overall, but it's still fine. It's good in limited. It's better than a hill giant. But it also has bullshit as its second line. It just reads bullshit. So first pick this card, slam it. It is highest of high picks level. So S tier. Grab it and move on. Rescue Retriever. Look at the derp dog. Is that good boy? So 5 mana flash 3/3, not incredible. We have 5 mana flash 3/3 flyers in common in other colors. So what makes this special is the text. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other soldier you control. So you're on a soldier tribal deck with this. It's so good. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to other attacking soldiers you control. This is a blowout card in the soldier deck. This is going to be a middle high card. It's a high pick, but it's a middle high. So I think it's slightly higher than Command or Lauren, but it's probably about the same as in the trenches. And it's definitely way higher than this because this is kind of mid. Okay, but it's lower than that, of course. Siege Veteran, 2 and a white for a 2/2 at the beginning of combat on your turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That's already done. We know that from Luminarch Aspirant. Whenever another non-token soldier you control dies, create a 1/1. It's just replacing your soldiers. This is a high pick, just like this. Probably slightly higher than this, but still lower than that. Yeah, snap the Siege Veteran, Rescue Retriever, and Myral up, but Myral, probably. Myral is the best of those, obviously. Soul Partition. Just exile target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. A spell cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more to cast. So it's a brief reprieve on something that better not have an ETB effect, a good ETB effect, usually. I mean, you can do it on your own stuff, absolutely. So that is versatility if you want another Rescue Retriever operation, but that's going to be 7 mana. So it's a delay tactic more than anything, but it also is instant speed exile, which can be quite nice as a trick. It can also get all your soldiers through if you just need one thing out of the way. And you don't mind buying a little bit of time that way. So I do like this card. I don't think it's an A tier or S tier. I think it's probably just under that. So it is fine. Yeah, it doesn't apply the tax to your stuff. Okay, that's a good point. So cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more to cast, so you're okay. So the Rescue Retriever then is only a 5, so you could rebuy that ETB and protect a creature that way. So I still think it's not, you're not going to pick it over any of these, but it's still a lower end of high pick, or medium end of high pick, actually. I don't think I put anything particularly in uncommons. I didn't find anything that was I found a lot that I really liked, but I didn't find anything that I would really put in high. I might have had one in lower end of high, but yeah. Yeah, I had one, I think. One or two, a few. So this is it's very good. I mean, it's fine as far as delay goes and rescuing and rebuying an ETB, but it's not permanent removal, so it's not quite. I mean, I think I would take permanent removal over it usually. So, okay. If it's good removal. The 4 damage red spell, for example, I might take over that if I were in both those colors. So, Takasia's welcome. 3 mana. Whenever one or more creatures with value 3 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn, so you don't have to pay for the mentor or the vampire trigger. The difference is the mentor and the vampire on creature bodies, so you have the slight down grade from there in terms that you don't get a body to attack with in limited, but enchantments are often harder to kill, so you may get more value out of this in the long term as far as drawing cards. So you have to have a deck sort of built around it a little bit. This is not a high pick. It's not a medium high pick. I think it's a middle high, as it's low high pick. Like the I think this is a little bit better than that. It's close. Actually no. I think these are roughly on a par. High picks, by the way, that's praise from me. These are good cards. These are really good cards. It's just, I think you're going to be overall really, really, really happy to see this for a deck, these 3, and you're going to be okay with, you're going to be happy that you got these, but just not to the same degree as those. So, it takes a lot for me to put in a high pick. Drafna, founder of Latnam. 1 and blue, sorry. 2/1, return target artifact you control to owner's hand. There's a lot of artifacts with ETBs as far as I know. That's probably good. And being able to return them is to protect them from spells or anything like that and recast is quite nice. 3, copy target artifact you can. Oh, God. That's gross. Okay. This is a high pick. Wow. Okay. So, remember this is a spell, so you have to do it on the stack. But that's still crazy. So if you have mana this is for the blue controlling decks, right? This is not for aggressive decks. So you're not really gonna want to combine that with like the soldier deck, right? In the way that blue white soldiers usually does. This is for a different deck, usually. It'll still go in there. It just doesn't. It's not at its best because you're usually going to want to play your artifact spells and double them, which likely means you're spending 5 or 6 mana. And white wants to have killed you before then to some degree, or on that 5th turn with this retriever, right? So but I mean, in limited, so this will be Preventer and sealed, then draft. Although you can build more around the artifact synergies, it's still better in a slower format than it is in a faster format. Like draft tends to be oversealed. So, it is a very good card. It's a medium high pick. I think, like I'd love to build around that with this particular set. Geology Enthusiast, 5 mana, 2/5. Nah, okay. At the beginning of your end step, create a okay. 6, draw a card and put a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, I can see that leading to like these 2 cards in the same deck would be pretty nutty. Because again, this wants to be in a slower deck and just generate lots and lots and lots of value. So this will prevent any stalemates. It's really, really good. I think it's a mid-high pick. It's pretty good. Yeah. It has to be in a certain deck, though, obviously. Hurkle, Master Wizard. Oh, we have a Hurkle. Hello, Hurkle. All right. So, at the beginning of your end step, if you cast a non-creature spell this turn, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. For each card type among non-creature spells you've cast this... Okay, God, this is too much text. I'm happy for you. Or sorry. All right. Okay, 3 mana for 2/4. Which is already fine stats in limited. End step, if you cast a non-creature spell, top 5 cards. For each card type among non-creature spells you cast this turn, You may put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay. So let's say you cast an artifact spell and you cast an enchantment spell. You get to look at the top 5 cards of your library, and you can put an artifact and or an enchantment spell, if you find them in those top 5 cards, into your hand. So, and the rest go on the bottom of your library in a random order. That's actually less good for this set than normal, that they're not going to the graveyard, because there's a lot of graveyard synergies. But it's still a very strong card. It's still a 3 mana 2/4 that holds the ground pretty well in the prowess decks, for example. And the prowess decks are casting non-creature spells, so quite a bit. So, and you can find instants and sorceries, for example, and so on and so forth. So this is a very strong card. And it generates card advantage, and it has good stats. And I like it. So I think it is a middle high pick. And we'll move on from there. But it's also got stunning art, so haha. Okay. Hurkyl's Final Meditation, 7 mana. As long as it's not your turn, this spell costs 3 more to cast, which make it 10. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. End the turn. All right, this is a constructed or EDH card, not a limited card, for the most part. I'm sure someone's going to get me by ending the turn and returning everything and resetting the game and doing stuff, but props to them when they do. One with the Multiverse, 8 mana. Look at the top card of your library at any time. You can play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell from your hand or the top of your library without paying its mana cost. Okay, well, if you can get to 8 mana, which some of these decks can, right? This plus the Quandrix or Simic 5-drop that starts adding colorless, I think also might be able to cast this quite early relative to 8 mana. I don't know whether this is a high pick. It really depends on how fast the format is. I haven't seen a lot of removals, so it might actually be higher than normal. Like normally I would put this at like a an upper mid pick, but this set produces a lot of extra mana pretty quickly. With the Power Stone, no, Power Stones can't cast this. Power Stones can't cast this. Yeah, so maybe it's just mid. But if it's a really slow format, though, we might just be able to hardcast it. And the Simic thing does add colorless mana. I don't even think it adds Power Stones only. So you might actually run this. In Sealed, I would run this. I actually think I might run a copy of this in Sealed. But I think it's even a mid pick currently, but I could be wrong. If this is really slow, this card is gonna shine. So I don't think I take this at all highly. I think it's a trap, but it'd probably feel really good once it got going. But if you made it to 8 mana in order to play this, I think you were already probably in a fine state. So I don't know. There's enough early aggression in this that I'm a little worried about this card, and I think it could literally be unplayable in this format. I'm gonna hold off judgment on this for now, but my intuition says no. Given that I just remembered that Power Stones can't cast things other than abilities and artifacts. So, hey, Def Pops! Sky Strike Officer, 3 mana for a 2/3 flyer. That's already okay. It's better than a Windrake. Whenever it attacks, create a holy shit. Okay, pardon my French. This is a very high pick. Create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. Whenever it attacks, tap 3 untapped soldier you control to draw a card. Yeah, okay. So yeah, this is a high pick. It is probably I feel like with the removal that I saw in this set, or rather lack thereof, I feel like this might be like nearly an I win the game card. Like if you don't remove this is gonna get so out of control so fast. Like I think this might be Speak more French, yeah. As somebody once said in chat, I'll be infringing on Voxy's territory. All right. Sky Strike. Yeah, so I think this is nutty. Absolutely freaking nutty. I think you first pick this and slam it. Teferi. Yet another 5 fairy. Okay. Whenever you draw a card, put a loyalty counter on it. 0, draw a card. And -2, it protects itself. Holy shit, that thing's strong. Okay, that's a slam. Okay, yeah, that's... I see here what's going on. Okay. Yeah, it goes in the draw deck best. It's still a slam because there's so many things. There are... That draw a card, draw an extra card per turn deck is quite potent, right? So this reads +1, right? So that's pretty cool. This is a slam. That's a windmill slam. There we go. So the ones that I'm seeing that I'm like just most impressed with by so far, Teferi, Sky Strike, Officer, Mariel, and probably these are just behind it really. Along maybe with Drafna. It's a little slower, but yeah. Okay. The Temporal Anchor. Beginning of your upkeep, scry 2 for 6 legendary artifact. Whenever you choose to put 1 or more cards in the bottom of your library while scrying, exile that many cards in the bottom of your library. During your turn, you make cards exiled with this. Okay, no, I think this is more... I mean, you can build around it and mess around with it, but I'm not going to take that highly. Urza's Command. Because remember, even though Power Stones can tap to cast artifacts, you still need 3 blue. And also, it doesn't do anything the turn it comes into play. Right? It's for 6 mana. And then, like, you then have to start, right, doing the scry, and, you know, if you're in exiling there, right? And there's so much artifact removal that I just don't like expensive artifacts as much in this that don't affect the board. So I don't pick this highly at all. I think it's, like, a low mid pick if you're going to do it. All right, Urza's Command. Oh, no, we got a command. All right. 4 mana. Choose 2. Creatures you don't control get -2/-0. Create a tap Power Stone token. Create a tap construct with +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Scry 1, then draw a card. Yeah, it's really versatile. It's good. So Kayla's Command, Urza's Command, roughly on par, it looks like. Blue definitely likes to... This is for the more controlling deck, the top mode. And then the last 2 modes are for the more aggressive decks. The white-blue soldier token decks, I think. Or the draw a card, extra card per turn effects. So, those decks. So, yeah. Artwork is stunning. Yeah, again, not one of the highest picks. Ashnod, Flesh Mechanist, sorry. 1/1/1, Death Touch. When it attacks, you can sacrifice another creature. If you do, create a tap Power Stone token. 5, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create it. Okay, yeah. That's a strong card. I think it's still on the low end of high, but its base is a 1/1 Death Touch for 1, which is always usable in limited. It's also a legendary creature, so there are some synergies like we talked about before with that. And it has that... It enables the sacrifice decks. So, I think it's on the low end of high, but I think it's still within the high category. Diabolic Intent, a reprint. Okay. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. So it's Demonic Tutor, sacrificing a creature to pay for an extra cost. In general, unless you're playing the sack deck, I don't know that this card rewards you as much unless you have a bomb. If you have a bomb, you run this card. If you're in the sack deck, you run this card. Other decks will be a little less thrilled to run this card. Overall, Demonic Tutor, because the overall quality of your cards is usually slightly less, is not as good in things like limited or sealed, as opposed to things like cube. Well, sorry. So in normal, like, basic limited is draft, as opposed to cube draft. Cube draft, the card quality is all really high, and so you can definitely search out a bomb with it, and so it's definitely worth it. But with this, it's a little bit less exciting. And you'll notice that like very few people played things like Diabolic Edict and sorry, not Edict. Edict sacked a creature. What was it? Diabolic Tutor. The one with the guy speaking in her ear. Yeah. And originally like a snake. But yeah, so that was a 4 mana one, and this one's 2 mana plus sacking a creature. So again, it's a little less of an amazing, effect than you would expect outside of constructed and outside of powerful formats like Cube. So, Fateful Handoff. Draw cards equal to the mana value of target artifact or creature you control. An opponent gains control of that permanent. Huh. Are there any like horrible I forget whether we had any permanents where we'd be like, I would like to give this to my opponent because it's bad. And the Power Stones have no mana value. I mean, drawing cards in black is always really hard. Actually, I think this would be useful. You could unearth something and hand it over. Yes, that would work. But what I was thinking is and white has a lot of enchantment-based removal a common that leaves the creature on the board. So Fateful Handoff would be a way to say, okay, I'm going to draw cards equal to that thing's mana value, and then I'm going to give it to you, and it's still under an arrest. So those would be the two uses I could see for this. I'm not sure. It's definitely not a high pick because that's a lot of situational, things. There's a lot of the situational things that have to go sort of right for this card to be really valuable to you and to not lose a permanent that's, a little rough to lose for 4 mana. Basically a turn here, or most of a turn, late game. So, a turn early game and most of a turn late game. So, I could be wrong about this card, but I don't think it's that high a pick at all. I think it might be like middle of the mids. All right. Gixian Puppeteer, 4 mana for a 4/3. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. That seems like fun. That draw deck is looking so good. When it dies, return another target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yeah, run this card. This is going to be a high pick. It's going to be middle of the high. It's not highest of the high, but it is middle high. And I think it's just beautiful in that deck. The 3 toughness is a little bit problematic because it does die to a lot of the red removal as well, and to almost all the removal, but it's very, very good. So Gix's command, if you're already getting mana value 3 from a 4/3 for 4 that dies in limited, you're already doing great. The other stuff is just a bonus, and it's a really nice payoff for being in the draw 2 deck. All right. Gix's command, 5 mana, choose 2, 2+1+1, it gains lifelink. Sorcery speed, though, ew. Destroy each creature with power 2 or less. Okay, so this is more the controlling deck, not really the sack deck or the black-white soldier version. Return up to, if you choose those are I'm talking about those modes. This mode here. Return up to 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Useful, slow. Because we usually have, okay, each opponent sacrifices a creature that okay, all right. There we get that last one. That last one definitely makes this worth it. Okay, so yeah, this is definitely a high pick. It's probably, because it's removal, it's probably, I think it makes it to middle high because of the removal line. So, for me, I think it makes it there. I don't think it's on the lower end of high, but I think it's middle high. All right. It's definitely not on the upper end of high. Not an S tier. At all. Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor. 3. Oh God, what's this gonna do? 3 mana, 3/3. I recognize this name. Ekadon, thank you so much for the Prime Gaming subscription. I really appreciate it. Hypes to you. Thank you so much for your support of the stream. Gix says, whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life if they do draw a card. Okay, that's sick. 7 mana, including 3 black. Discard X cards. Exile the top X cards if you're like, hi! Exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their costs. Okay, but you have to discard X cards and pay 7. That second is, you know, a bonus. Already the stats are so good, and the first ability, the static ability, sorry, the triggered ability there, is so nice. Yeah, that's an epically good card. Is it an S tier or is it an A tier? I think it's an A tier. I don't think it's an I win the game card, but it's really close to that, right? Clear F. Yeah. You F is what you say when it hits the board and they have a million things. So yeah, it's an A tier, it's not an S tier. So okay, so middle high. Hostile Negotiations 4. Exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face-down pile, then exile the top 3 cards of your library in another face-down pile. Look at the cards in each pile, then turn a pile of your choice face up. An opponent then chooses one of the piles. Oh, this could go so wrong. Put that pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. You lose 3 life. Okay. So a mini game, yeah. So the reason I actually like this more than I normally would, so you're getting 3 cards for 4 mana. You're guaranteed to get 3 cards and you can play a little mind game with your opponent about which pile is going to be better. But the thing is, I really like this more than that because the graveyard synergies are so much, especially for Golgari with this one, where you get rewards for how many creatures are in the graveyard. And of course we have Unearth. Less than I was hoping, given how much prevalence there was for like milling and so on and so forth. But yeah, so I like this card a lot. I think it's very good. I don't think it's not an A or S tier, but it is, I know it puts more graveyards than FOF, yeah. But I think it's a lower end of high pick. It's not a mid, it's not a top end of high, and it might even be an upper mid pick. But I think it's a very good card, especially at instant speed. That's really nice. So yeah, I think it's lower high. I don't think it's upper mid. I think it's even better than that. So all right, Misery's Shadow. It's a shade. It's my first shade, and you know, I actually have a 60 card skeleton, shade, and nightmare deck because reasons, and it's adorable and old. So anyway, 2 mana, 2/2. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. Well, that's gross. Okay, that's a good way to stop things. And 1, it doesn't have to be black. Okay, yeah, this card is excellent. It's a high pick if you're, you know, anywhere thinking about your being in black. It's not an S tier, but it is very good. Just because you have to invest in it. Its fail case is a bear, which is already good. A bear that exiles your opponent's shit when they die. And then it can pump, and that can be a problem for OP. And based on the removal that I've seen, it probably is a big problem for OP. So I think it's a lower end of high. Could be mid. But because it's just a 2 mana 2/2 that requires, you know, you to have mana to pump it. And remember, Power Stones can pump this. It's still very good, and I might revise it to like a little higher than that over the course of this, but yeah. Anyway, sorry. Painful Quandary. 5 mana. Whenever opponent casts a spell, the player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. That's really quite... I mean, obviously paying 5 mana for something that doesn't impact the board right away is good. Is not great, right? But it empties out their hand really fast. The thing is that Unearth is an ability, not a casting, I believe. Is it? Actually, I should have to read Unearth again. It's been forever. So they can still do something, but I think this is really good. Because once they have one card left in hand, right? They're just going to have to lose 5 life, right? I don't like giving opponents choices normally, but this one seems strong enough and limited because you often empty. Yeah, it's activated ability. Good. Okay. Thank you. So with them still being able to do that and accumulate cards in hand until they can, discard, this might be not as good as normal because of Unearth. Teodoros, thank you so much for the follow. So yeah, it might mitigate opponents' flood, or it might allow them to get things with Unearth into the graveyard and still play their crazy stuff and not take 5 lives. So there are times where it's going to be very good and times where it's going to be very bad. And so for a card like that, I can't value it that highly. I'm going to say that it's probably upper mid because of that. So there are times where it will shine. Like I said, there are times where it just be like, and seen, right? And especially based on certain decks. For example, that's going to hose the prowess deck, I think. The draw an extra card less so to some degree, but the prowess deck maybe. So there's give and take there. Like I said, because it's so swingy on the thing, I'm gonna put it at a high mid, or medium mid, but middle mid. But yeah, there's that. All right, Brother's End. 3 mana, choose 1, deals 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, destroy all artifacts with mana value of 3 or less. Okay, so this is a nice card to have for the mid-rangey red-green or red something else. It has to be mid-rangey though, because you're not going to run this in an aggressive deck, because it will kill all your crap. So this is a very nice card to have for bigger decks, and I would expect it to be taken accordingly. It's therefore not an S tier or an A tier card. It's something that you're going to have to, say this is appropriate for my deck. All right, Draconic Destiny. It's an aura. Again, you know how I feel about auras. Auras are asking for 2 for 1, so they better be damn powerful in order for me to play them in limited. So let's take a look at what this one does. It gets +1/+1, has flying, haste, and fire breathing for 1. It becomes a dragon. When enchanted creature dies, return Draconic Destiny to its owner's hand. So it's one in the series of Rancor stuff. Okay. Okay. So this, you don't really get 2 for 1 because even if they kill, oh wait, no. You do get 2 for 1. You still get 2 for 1. That's the only way it works. Okay, I see. Never mind. I was reading it incorrectly. So it's actually, yeah, there's bounce and exile, number 1. But number 2, if they remove it in response, right? You're just losing 2 cards. So that's why auras are painful to work with. This one, though, the effect may be worthwhile to give. It's 3 mana, give something a pump and flying and haste and potential more pump. And then if the creature dies, you get it back to start doing that to something else. So aggressive decks are actually going to want this card. That said, it is... or cards that have... decks that have creatures that are hard to kill. That said, again, it is still a risk because it is an aura. So what that means is that if somebody has a tap down your creature, right, with the blue bubble snare type card, or exile your creature, right, with there's 1 white card, white enchantment that does so, and 1 white card that will do so, and then there's another arrest that will work. So you have to be aware that those are in the format and you play this accordingly. It's not an S tier. I don't even think it's an A tier. I think it would be the lower end of high picks. So that would be what I would go for there. Now, Felden, Ronom Excavator, 2 mana, 2/2 haste, so hasty bear, can't block. Whenever it's dealt damage, exile that many cards from the top of your library, choose one of them until end of turn. You can play that card. End of your next turn. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I like it. At the very least, it helps you get through your deck a little bit more with hasty bits. It's definitely in the aggressive shell, not in any other one. I don't think I would run this in a bigger deck. But yeah, I like that card. I like that card a lot. It's a low end of, I think it's upper end of mid or lower end of high. So that's where I would put that. It's not very high. All right, Mechanized Warfare, 3 mana. If a red artifact source you control will deal damage to an opponent or opponent controls, deals that much damage plus 1 instead. You know, it is nice with the indestructible tricks, absolutely. There are 2 of those one in white and one in green that we saw. Like I said, an aggressive deck would want this. Mechanized Warfare, so again, not affecting the board on 3 is a little bit rough for what looks like it wants to be an aggressive card. That much damage plus 1 instead. It's good. I don't think it's a super high pick, but I'll have to see how the set plays out and how aggressive people are in general. So it looks okay. I think it's an upper mid pick, probably. There are a lot of cards that I would want to see over this one first. Yeah, lower, high, upper mid, but it's tending toward upper mid. All right, Mishra's Command. Choose target player. They may discard up to X cards. Not even sure you'd play it in mono red. Yeah, we'll see how it goes out. How it works out. But 3 mana, not to immediately. It does immediately affect the board as long as you have creatures to attack with. But yeah. So if you have a primarily like a mono red deck that's with, you know, obviously plenty of artifacts, etc., which they do want to run, I can definitely see playing this. Choose. So they may discard up to X cards, then they draw a card for each card discarded this way. Deals X damage to target. Oh yeah, okay. So this is a X damage to target creature, X damage to planeswalker, X plus X below, and haste until end of turn for 1 creature. This is an upper mid pick, just because it's an X damage spell to creatures. It's and end planeswalkers. It's not a high pick at all. But we like our X damage spells, and it is pretty versatile. If it went face, it would be an extremely high pick. All right, Over the Top, 7 mana. Each player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control. Puts all permanent cards they reveal this way onto the battlefield and puts the rest in their graveyard. Holy mama! That is such a risk. I don't like it. I just know I'd hit like 5 lands and 2 cards, and my opponent would be like, 7 things onto the board, please. Yeah. This is a do not run for me. I'm probably gonna get killed by it at some point, but this is a do not run for me. Tyrant of Care Ridges, 6 mana, 4/5 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, does 4 damage to any target. Yeah, run this card. So this is a middle of the mid Dargon. It is definitely worth running. It's not an S tier bomb, so it's not like slam. It's just good. Visions of Phyrexia, 4 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn, so it's an extra card per turn. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't play a card, create a tap Power Stone token. This is upper mid or middle of the mid, because that extra value is really nice at 4 mana, but at 4 mana in red, you usually want to be impacting the board. And a Power Stone token isn't enough to be doing that at 4. So it gets you the potential for an extra card. Outpost Siege did the same thing. Outpost Siege was pretty good, but it also had the other mode. The tap Power Stone tokens can ensure that you can then cast the future spells, though, if they're artifacts, etc. I can see this be going in a deck. I think it's upper mid still, though. I think that or middle mid. I think that the rating is correct. But it could surprise me there. So it makes a Power Stone, but I mean if red likes to affect the board with creatures at that point. Awaken the Woods Um, X and 2 green create X. Holy shit. Yeah, I like it. I think I would slam this card. But I'm a geek. I actually think it's an A list card, A tier card, as opposed to an S tier at all. Like it's probably even maybe a lower high end pick, but it's really fun because it accelerates you at the same time as it creates creatures. So I kind of like it. But we have seen that there's a lot of stuff that does 1 damage to like all the creatures your opponents control, right, or all creatures. So it's a little bit sketch, but in terms of what the removal exists, but I think that's pretty good. So if you can pay 6 to get a 4, and then you accelerate your mana to like yeah, okay. So I think this is a middle high pick. So it's the middle end of the high picks. I like it, but it's not an S tier bomb, I don't think. Fade from history. Each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 green bear creature token, then destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Okay, that's an EDH card, certainly, and I don't like it, because I have artifacts decks, and an enchantment deck. It's annoying. But you get a baby bear, so maybe. All right. So when we look at this card, I do think green tends to have non-artifact creatures, but it also has a lot of enchantments. I think it probably is for the bigger green decks to make sure that they don't get overrun by an artifact deck, a really fast artifact deck, or a blue artifact deck that's sort of mid-rangey. I think it's more of a... Yeah, so I wouldn't run this in an aggro deck. I think I would take this if I were already in green, then I take it more highly. But I think if I'm not already, like if this is first pick, first pack, I think it's a mid level pick. Fauna Shaman is a fun card. I think it's a lower end of high pick in limited. Unless you have a bomb, in which case, absolutely, right? So if it's like second pack and you already have like a crazy stupid card like this one, for example, then you definitely snap this up. Though while you're running like elf shamans and a soldier deck, it's a little bit of a cost to pay. But I think it's an upper lower, high, or upper mid card otherwise. Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, 3 mana, 2/3, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of a creature or creature card. Oh, sorry. Okay, so the wording there is actually slightly nebulous. All right. Okay. 2 mana in any combination of colors, cast creature spells. So this is already really strong when you just cast creature spells. Yeah, 3 mana double ramp is quite nice. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on it and untap it. Okay. Yeah, nope, that's a really good card. I think it's a lower end of high pick. It might encroach on the medium high. But it's definitely not an S tier. It's not like Windmill Slam this. It's good. Ooh, it's another derpy. Derpy worm. Right, but if your entire like valuation of the card is like I have to get it on exact curve, right? Teething Wormlet, 1/1/1. Death touch as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. Whenever an artifact, you gain 1 life. If this is the first time this ability is resolved this turn, put up a counter. Okay, so it starts growing for that. So here's the thing: the cards that start growing based on when you play something else or if something enters, right? And obviously we have artifacts that can enter multiple times after because they can die and then get unearthed. However, the reason that so they can be quite good and they can get quite big. The problem with them is opponents have bounce and kill spells, etc. So this mitigates that slightly with the 1 life that you gain. So you had something that sort of stuck with you, so to speak. But the card that did that last in DMU was the Beast something, which was a 2-mana 2/2 that got a +1/+1 counter whenever you played a creature spell. But when it died, it transferred those counters to something else. That made that strong. It was so good because it was able to transfer the counters. It was still not a great draw middle of the game. This is not going to be as bad a draw middle of the game because we have Unearth, right? For several artifacts, but it's also not going to be as strong a card by any stretch. I think this is a good card, but it's definitely not a really early pick usually. Unless you can, I mean, you can take it and build around it, but it's still, like I said, it's not going to be that great. It'll depend on how many like Unearth spells you have, because you might get it late and you're like, meh. Yeah, it's still a decent blocker late if it has Death Touch, if you have 3 or more artifacts. But like, imagine like your opponent's like just sort of winning and you play this this thing. You might not have 3 artifacts late. So if you plays this thing and it's like, it might not be great. I don't think I would. It's not an S tier. It's not an A tier. I think it's probably either low end of high or upper end of mid. It's a fine card, but it's super impressive to me. Titania, Gaia Incarnate, Vigilance, Reach, Trample, Haste. It's Big Al. Thank you so much for the follow. Vigilance, Reach, Trample, Haste. Titania, Gaia Incarnate's power and toughness are each equal number of lands you control. Wait. Oh, that's the meld. Okay. Okay, so this is what I should be reading. Okay, Titania, Voice of Gaia, 3 mana, 3/4, Reach. Already good. Take that card. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 2 life. There are Evolving Wilds. The beginning of our upkeep, if there are 4 or more land cards in your graveyard and you both own and control Titania and a land named Argoth, Sanctum of Nature, exile them, then meld them into this. Yeah, there's mill on the side. Yes, okay. So it would go on the Golgari mill decks. Yeah, and the land meld, yeah. So then it becomes this: Vigilance, Reach, Trample, Haste, power equal to lands you control. When it enters, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Oh no, Argoth Sanctuary. We saw that earlier, sorry. 3 and a green, put 4 +1 counters on target land you control. It becomes this. Okay, that's good. I still think this card is just like you take it instantly, even if you don't have the other card. Like, I think that you'll try to prioritize the other, but still a 3/4 reach for 3 is just a really good stat in limited. So it's an A tier card. I would pick this middle high. If you can get the other stuff, it'll be even better, right? But there have to be 4 or more land cards, so you have to really prioritize the mill. So it's a little worrisome. You might mill that land in your deck, and so it's a little bit meh. So we'll see. Titania's Command, 6 mana, exile target player's graveyard. That's going to be useful. Search over 2 land cards, 2 rare tokens. On each creature you can... Okay, yeah. All right, so this is a middle high pick. Just good. Obviously, it's 6 mana, but it's very good for what it does. Okay. All right, so now we've got Harbin. So let's go look at that land. I think it was in the uncommons. Oh no, it's in the rare. Oh, it's a rare. That's even worse. Okay. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary green creature, so it's gonna enter tapped most of the time. Add green. Yeah, it definitely helps you meld her. But you have to get both of these. But it's possible that, but this is good enough that people would take it on its own, I think, because this ability is very nice for several decks. So I think it's going to be hard to get both in a draft slash thing. So I'm not going to rate Titania based on her having melded. I'm going to rate her based on her actual card, which still I think is a middle high, just because that's such good stats. And it just has an upside. So so I don't know that that's the meld is really a realistic thing. I think on occasion you're gonna get it and you're gonna be so happy. Yeah, nobody. Yeah. Harbin. All right. Vanguard Aviator. So Azorius 3/2 flyer when you attack with 5 or more soldiers. Jesus Christ. Yeah, okay. So the second ability will happen a little bit more often than I would like, but also less frequently than we have as a dream. So, more often than I like against me, but less frequently when I get to do it. But still good. This is a probably a lower high pick. Still really good, but like 5 or more soldiers. There are things that make soldier tokens, but this is going to be less likely overall, because oftentimes you're going to be throwing tokens just to get damage through. So yeah, 4 soldiers for 6 isn't really what you're going to want to play in an aggressive soldier token deck usually. So it's good. It's a 3/2 flyer for 2. That's already good stats. So I think it is probably a lower end of high. Because it's the 2 colors, but there you are. All right, Urza. Lord, well, there's so many Urzas. There's an uncommon, there's a rare, there's a mythic. Okay. 1 a white and a blue for a 2/4. All right, 3 mana for a 2/4, still decent in limited. All right, mix all your artifacts and the sorcery spells. 1 less to cast. That's a okay. So that automatically means that this is a middle high pick. If you both own and control, okay, so this can meld. Artifact called a Mightstone and Weakstone. And the Planeswalkers, I'm sure stupid. Okay, so yeah, this is a I think this is a middle high pick based on its current stuff. It could be a Windmill Slam, but I think it's it's a double colored card, first pick, first pack, which is a little bit hard, but this ability is so good. So I think it's an A tier. I don't know if it's an S tier unless you can sort of make this happen. I don't know. Maybe it's just an S tier. Cause the decrease is so nice. Beefy Green, thank you so much for the Prime Gaming. Hypes to you. Thank you so much for your support of the stream. You're so awesome. Okay, so yeah, I think it's a middle high still. It covers so many things, I know. So I'm not sure I Windmill Slam this though as an S tier. It's not like I just win the game if I play this. I think it's still an A tier. So it's middle high for me. My estimation could go up on it. We'll see. Urza, Prince of Krug. 4 mana, 2/3 artifact creatures. You get +2/+2. You control. 6 mana, create a token. There's a copy of target artifact you control, except it's this. Yeah, I think that's an A tier as well. So I think that's middle high. Grimnir, thank you so much for the follow. So I think that's middle high. That really can, the 6 mana ability can really stop a board state from getting it can break out of a stalemate in a board state. And this is a nice ability. The stats aren't great, but there you go. So yeah, middle high. Mishra, claimed by Gix. S is above A, yes. S tier are the broken bombs, right? The ones that basically read I win the game when you play them. This is like I take it and it'll really happily impact the board. Same thing. And it's a very good card, and it would, you know, maybe winning a lot of games. It's not like an auto, like just slam this and I will win the game, right? Basically. That's the S tier level. So Mishra, claimed by Gix. 4 mana, 3/5. Decent stats already. Whenever you attack, each opponent loses X life. Okay. That's an S tier. Yeah, this is an S tier. I would slam this, right? Whenever you attack, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life. With the X is the number of attacking creatures. That's crazy. That's dumb. Yeah. So that's an S tier. This is a better card than either of these. Just on the face of it. Again, you know, your deck can make these function with a lot more power than they look like normally, but this is on this face of it, it's just good. It doesn't need anything else, right? You put it in an aggressive deck and just go. Mishra, Tamer of Makfawa. 5 mana, 4/4. Okay, stats not great. Permanents you control have ward, sacrifice a permanent. Wow, okay, that's good. Yeah. Okay, that's a holy shit. Okay. I mean, yes, we're making a lot more permanents now with the power stones. So it's not as good as it looks. It's not like they're always sacking creatures or lands. So, but each artifact your card has unearthed. Nice. That's okay. So this is, I think this might be an S tier as well, or at least a very high A tier. That is a very good card. I think it's really high A tier. I'm not sure it's an S tier. It's close though. Okay. I think these are stronger than the Urzas. But I think overall the white blue that I've seen is a stronger deck than the black red. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So Loyal Bodyguard, here we have red green 3/3. That's already a good stat. Sacrifice it, legendary creatures you can. That's not a really big draw in limited. There are a lot of legendary creatures, but most of them are rare that we saw. There were only like 3 that were uncommon. So most comprehensive review of the Melkars. I didn't even look at them really. I was just like, me. Maybe you'll get this to happen. If you do get it, it's gonna feel great, but it's just unlikely, right? So yeah, this is a constructed card. Yeah, it's a Bard class, I think, wants this. Yeah. That deck wants this. I think this is, but it's still playable in limited, but it's gonna be a low. So it's gonna be upper, medium, or lower high pick, just because it's a 3 mana. It's a 2 mana 3/3, right? Watch Wolf, right? It's a Watch Wolf in Gruul. So it's just, you know, it's a perfectly serviceable card. It's more stats for the mana than you normally get. So it's, you know, upper mid, middle mid, something like that. Sarenth Great Worm, holy mother. Okay, 6 mana, 7/6. So it's a craw worm, except that this isn't green. Trample. Trample matters, so it's not a craw worm. Whenever a land enters the battle. Okay, but if you already have 6 mana, you're less than. Okay. So it triggers one of your. So whenever a land is. So the thing is, you're ramping off yours and your opponent's lands. You're ramping for artifact and spells and abilities, which is nice, but you've already hit 6 mana and you've played a 7/6. So the second ability doesn't impress me that much with it, because you already have 6 mana. So you're already doing nice things. Ramping further in limited is better in sealed than it would be in draft. I think usually, because draft, again, tends to be more aggressive and faster because everything is a little bit more synergistic because you're picking the cards to build around a deck, right? But, you know, sealed, you just play what you got. I think, you know, I still will play this card. It's not an S tier bomb. I think it's just I don't even know that this is A tier. I think this is like, it's still something you pick, but... And the removal that I've seen doesn't take care of it that much. I don't know. I think this is an upper mid. It's not really impressive to me. It might crawl into a haha. It doesn't really crawl. It slithers. It moves. I don't know. It unches into a lower high pick, but I think that's it. So, um, yeah, we'll see about that one. Legions to Ashes. 1 a white and a black. Exile target non-land permanent opponent controls and all tokens that player controls with the same name as that permanent. Yeah, that's going to be necessary for it's good removal. It's going to be an A tier card, I think. So it's probably middle high or lower high. It's not an S tier bomb, so you're not like taking it, slamming it, and winning the game. But it's good. It can stop soldier decks by just exiling all the tokens, or it can stop a bigger thing so your soldier deck can get in. Yeah. I like it. It's good. It's going to be in the high picks, but it's not going to be an S tier. So we have Saheeli. Hello, Robbie. Slither is the right wording. Got it. So Saheeli Filigree Master, 4 mana, 3, scry 1. You may tap an untapped artifact you control. If you do, draw a card. That's nice. I like that. -2, create 2. Thopter artifact tokens with flying. They gain haste. Okay. An emblem with artifact creatures you control get +1, and artifact spells you cast cost 1 less. You have to keep her alive for 1 turn, then you can ult. The thing is, she protects herself even with flyers, so I think that's actually really good, despite the fact that she goes down to 1. So, and if she's on an empty board, or if you have a bunch of ways to protect her already, creatures on the board already, the +1 is really strong into the ult. So, I don't think this is S tier. I think it's A tier. It's on the upper end of A tier though. All right, Deathbloom Ritualist, 5 mana, 3/5. Add X of any one color, X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Yeah, it can fix stuff. I think that's the lower end of high pick. It's or upper medium. It's actually not that great because again, you're at 5 mana. To ramp at 5 mana is less important. It does fix things though. So, but yeah, I think upper end of mid probably for me, or really low end of high. Queen Kayla Bin Krug. Okay. 1 red and a white, 2, 3, 4, tap. Discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards. So we have a wheel effect for you. You may choose, not quite wheel, because wheel draws 7, but you may choose an artifact or creature card from then and 1 you discarded this way. Then do the same for artifact or creatures meant 2 and 3. Return those cards to the battlefield. Whoa, that's kind of cool. Yeah, you get potentially up to 3 bodies for 4 mana. Probably 2 bodies, a 2 and a 3, but that's still net value because you discarded them and you replaced those cards. This is a very good card. I don't think it's S tier. I think it's still A tier though. Because that's a very powerful effect. If you have a general like lower mana cost deck. So this has to be in an aggressive deck. But it's pretty darn good. If it stays alive 1 turn, that can be, and you get it early game, that can be pretty crazy. But if you get it late game too, it's not the worst because it can mitigate flood. Even if you discard all lands, then at least you can draw that many cards. So I like it. I think it's good. I think it's a lower end of high. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, red white is an unearthed color player pair. Yeah. Thanos, the Toy Maker. 5 mana, 3/5. We got a lot of 5 mana, 3/5s. We've got Thanos. We've got Deathbloom Ritualists. We've got Mishra. We've got Wasn't there another one that I'm missing? I mean, technically this can become a 3/5. Yeah, that was interesting. Okay, anyway, sorry. All right. Whenever you cast a beast or bird creature spell, you may copy it, except the copy is an artifact in addition to its other types. Ah, how many beasts and birds are in here? Oh, now we gotta check. Somebody, what you can do really easily to check this is do an advanced search and just check for birds and beasts in terms of creature types, and I'll do that in a bit. But or unless you want to do that for me, that'd be so cool. But yeah, this could be an interesting build around. It's definitely not. If you can build around it, I think it's an S tier card. But if you can't build around it, like it's if it's not as good. Let's look. Beast or bird? Are you kidding me? That's it? Wait, this can't be it, right? There's no bird here. This is missing bird. There's 2 commons and 3 uncommons and 1 rare. Here. What was it? So advanced, we want set bro. We want type line, we want bird. Oh, there was a space. Okay, so this should be it. Remember the space. Yeah, okay. So, all right. 2C, 3U, 1R. So 6 cards total. How many commons? 3? No, I don't like this card. I don't think this is playable. Unless you get like mono Baloths. Because if you do this, you're going to mill yourself out. Your opponent's going to kill them eventually, and you're just going to mill yourself out. Well, that's just freaking sad. Yeah, okay. I don't think this is playable. Are there any changelings? This is going to be a commander card and not a limited card. It's going to be, that's really sad. There's like an unplayable rare. There's no changelings. Okay. All right, well, give up on that card. Yeah. Tokasia, Dig Site Mentor, Bant, and 1. 4/3. Creatures you control have vigilance and tap surveil 1. Whoa. Exile it from your graveyard for a lot of mana. 8, including double Bant. Return any number of target artifact cards with total mana 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. I think given how much this set really doesn't want to splash for the 3rd color, I don't like this card. I think it's a low pick. Especially given this cost, right? There's very little fixing in this set. And I haven't seen anything to make this worth it, sadly. So this is a really low pick for me, but maybe I'm missing something. All right. Autonomous Assembler, 5 mana prototype. All right. So this is a... So as a bear that has vigilance that can pump itself, or something else if we see other assembly workers. I think that were the Tron things all assembly workers? I think they might have been. I hesitate to classify this as like, and it's a 5 and a 4/4/5 vigilance is still fine. I think it's a low end of high pick, but it's still, you know, you're gonna be fine and happy to see it. It's fine, but it's not an A tier or S tier bomb, in my opinion. So, all right, 5 mana, 4/6. The beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more other creatures, draw a card. I'm gonna deck myself with that. But it also has create a soldier token. Yeah. I think this is an A tier. I don't think it's an S tier, but I think it's an A tier. I would slam this. It also has Unearth. Wow. Okay. Actually, it might get to S tier because of the draw card. It's on the beginning of the end step, so you might get it to go once and you can get it back. When do you on the text for Unearth, when do you exile it? It's gonna be on the trigger on end step, right? Will you also get this trigger when that occurs? It probably, yes, I think you do. So even on the Unearth, you'll get 1 more card if you control 2 or more other creatures. I think, yeah. Okay. So it would be on the top end of your soldier deck. But I would run it in anything else, as provided the white was yeah. Okay, I think it's an A tier. So I think it's a middle high, but I think it's on the upper end of middle high. I don't think it's an S tier. But it's very close again. All right. So, oh, you absolutely run it in anything white. Absolutely. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how high and happy you are to see it. Like this, you'll run in anything white, I promise, right? But I don't know whether I'm gonna rank it, where I'm gonna rank it on the scale. So 6, 5, 4 flying, 3 for a 3/3 flyer. Yeah, it's already good. Beginning of combat. Okay, yeah. So this is an A tier. Well, we haven't gotten through all of them yet, but I'll run back through and go through my S tiers in a second. Yeah, this is pretty freaking dumb. Yeah, this is an A tier bomb very heavily. It's very high on the A tier part too, so that's really nice. A little heavier commitment to white there. But again, you can cast it for the 6. That's still great. Urza's Silex. Karn Silex, Urza Silex. Let's see. Urza Silex. 3 mana, 4 exile it. Each player chooses 6 lands, destroy all other permanents. Why 6 lands? Activate as a sorcery. When it's put into exile, you may pay 2, so that'd be 6 mana total. If you do search the library for Planeswalker, yeah, like you're gonna have a Planeswalker card in limited more often. Okay, so this is a more constructed card, but it is a wrath that you might need to take care of a super aggressive deck. Or if you are an aggressive deck, it's still a wrath for something. If the opponent's board got out of hand and you've been sort of compiling cards in hand so you can rebuild your board afterwards. Why is it white? I think white needs the wrath the least in this set. I know that wraths are usually in white, but as an artifact, I would rather it be some other color. So it's still a wrath. I don't think I pick it that highly. Especially in white, just because white usually doesn't want a wrath. So, I would sideboard it, absolutely, in case I hit another aggro deck or something that I really just couldn't handle. It fits better story-wise, got it. Yeah, it seems out of place for this in this set for white. Except that white does have Unearth. So maybe it's a little bit better than I'm thinking. So I think this is a low high pick, but I think it's still in the high because white has Unearth. And so you might be better able to take advantage of having killed everything. Hello, cat. Than your opponent. So yeah, I think this is still in the high pick category. Whereas it normally for me in a white deck would be very low. So, okay. Arcane Proxy, 7 mana, prototype 3 for a 2/1 that when it enters the battlefield, you cast it. If you cast it, exile target instant sorcery with mana value less than or equal to its power from graveyard. Copy that. Oh. No flash. But you get a free spell. I love this for the prowess deck. I really like this for the prowess deck and the like curates and stuff and the draw card deck. I think it's an A tier. I think it's middle high. It's not an S tier, of course. So small gear hulk, yeah. So I like it. I think it's a middle high, but I don't think it's an S tier. I don't think it's a really, really high pick either. It's not a high A either. I think it's good. Surge Engine. Build constructed or builds there's been a lot of cards that I absolutely want to build around in limited. Surge Engine, 2 for 3/2 defender. Loses defender and gains this creature can't be blocked. Ooh, nice. Becomes blue and has base power, toughness 5/4. Activated, doesn't have a defender, so that's 4 mana in that turn. 6, draw 3 cards, activate if it's blue and only once. So 4 plus 6, 10 mana? I still like this card. I think it's an A tier card. I don't think it's an S tier bomb. So I'm gonna do that A tier. Constructed? Oh. I think there was something that I saw for EDH that I thought was fun. But I don't play the like standard or modern or legacy or vintage or pioneer or historic that much right now. When it attacks, defending player mills half their library rounded up. 7/6/4 unearth 4 with triple blue. All right. So this can be cast with Power Stones. Target player mills half their library in this is less impressive because there is unearth. However, and it can pump like your Golgari decks, which care about creatures in the graveyard. However, if it gets to attack multiple times, because there are indestructible tricks in this, you can mill your opponent out. But it's very, it looks like it's pretty late game, especially with this idea. I think this is a lower high pick. I think it's still in high, but I think it's a lower high. Phyrexian Fleshgorger, 7 mana, prototype 3 for 3/3 menace lifelink. Ward, pay life equal to its power. Yep, this is an A tier, but not an S tier. So I think it's middle of the high run. I prefer to cast it for this cost than for the 7. I think it's really vulnerable overall. Wait, no, sorry. Ward, pay life equal to the 5. Yeah, I prefer to cast it early than late, rather than late, but I think it's really good. So I think this is the ward makes it okay. And there is artifact recursion. Does artifact recursion, when you recur, okay, hold on. When you recur this artifact, you can only recur it from the graveyard as this creature, right? Is that correct? I think because you recur them only as big forms. Got it. Not the prototype. Okay. So the silent, I don't think it's S. I still think it's a high A. And the reason is the 7 cost here. I think the 3 cost is crazy awesome, and it's a really good card, and it's an A tier. And that Menace Lifelink pay life equal to that is what I'm gauging it on. The 7 cost, if you can pay it, yes, it's definitely going to be a huge deal, right? I think it's not. I don't want to call it an S because of the high cost, and because black doesn't generally have that much acceleration. If you put this in a black-green shell, though, it might hit. I mean, I don't know. How we saw some accelerators in green. Yeah, only small form cast. I agree. So I think, remember, this is limited set review. This is not constructed. Constructed, I think this is a crazy card. Great Tron card. Yeah, it could be fun. But again, this is limited. So I think it's not an S tier limited card. I think it is an A tier. I think it's a high A tier. So this would be, I think that's that. There are reanimation spells that uncommon in both black and white. Okay, that makes it a little stronger in the set. So I might revise this to an S tier depending on how often you get that recursion and so forth. Because this ward is very, very strong. But the 7 cost is a little bit prohibitive because I think the format's really fast. This part is great, but a Menace Lifelink 3/3 for 3 is a fantastic card, but it's not I win the game. So the versatility on this is great. And maybe that's supposed to be my upping it to an S tier, but it's so close, but I don't know that I can quite do that. I don't think it's quite S tier, but it's, yeah. That's why I'm not giving S tier. I'm ready to be wrong. But I think it's definitely an A tier. Yeah, but the price, remember, is standard based as well. It's not limited. So, I'm sure that the red green card that's good in Bard class is also quite high overall for that deck, but it's absolutely freaking like mid range, right? It's a freaking Watch Wolf in limited. So things are very different between limited and constructed. So Razor Lash Transmogrant, 2 mana, 3/1, can't block. You can return it from graveyard to the battle with a +1/+1 counter on it. Costs 4 less if an opponent controls 4 or more non-basic lands. That's not going to be something that happens in limited that often. So this second thing, it's going to cost more. That doesn't mean this is a bad card. It's still something that can come back into play. It's still a 3/1 for 2, so you want it in aggressive decks. So this is an upper mid pick. It's not a high pick. It's a useful card, but not great. It's more constructed worthy. Terror Ballista, 7 mana, 5/3 menace. When it attacks, you can sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy. Whoa! Ooh, very nice. And an Unearth for 5. I think because it has Unearth and we have the mill stuff, this is actually quite a bit stronger than it could be otherwise for 7 for a 5/3 menace. I think it's probably an A tier, this one. It actually makes it to A tier because of that. I like it. In specifically the sacrifice decks, it's an A tier. I think it might be A- in a non-sacrifice deck. Still in the high tier, and remember, you know how hard it is to get to high tier for me. Transmogrant's Crown, 2 mana, equipped creature gets +2/+0, so it's a bone splitter. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw a card, so it's half of a skull clamp as well with no minus on that. So equip 2 or black. Oh, this is excellent. Okay, this is definitely an this is so close to S tier. This is an A tier card. This is fantastic. In the anything that produces those little 1/1 white artifact soldier tokens, that's really great. It's just going to be good in any aggressive deck. even with the equip 2. That's fine. But especially in a black deck, it's nuts. And the sack deck loves this, right? Nice, really nice. That's an A tier card. Absolutely. Don't think it's S tier. It's so close, but it's so close to S tier. Really, really good. Okay, Artifice, and this is so good too in the the uncommon black 1/3 flyer that gets +1/+1 counter whenever you draw an extra card for the turn, like a second card per turn. That's just gonna, and when it dies, you get back something equal to its or less than its power to the battlefield. This is going to go with that so nicely. So yeah, I think this is an A tier for that reason. And equipment is difficult to get to A tier often. But this is one of them. All right, Artificer's Dragon, 6 mana, 4/4 flyer with fire breathing for all your artifact creatures for 1 red and unearth. Nice. Okay, A tier, but not an S tier. Maybe an S tier. No, not S tier. It's 6 mana, 4/4 flyer and red without haste. It does have unearth, but not haste unless you have the unearth. Yeah, it's A tier because it usually wants to go. I feel like this usually wants to go in a mid-range deck, a more mid-rangey deck, than the aggressive deck, just because it costs 6 and it doesn't have haste. In a deck that's sort of milling itself out and uses the unearth for a mass pump for this. Again, you need 6 to play it and then mass pump. So, it's very good. Like I said, still high tier. But it's A, not S. Phyrexian Dragon Engine, 3/2/2 double strike. Enters the battlefield with your graveyard. You may discard your hand if you do draw 3 cards. An unearth for 5. Yeah, I really like this card. I think it's A tier. I don't think it might be. What's the other side? Oh, melds with Mishra. Okay, right. This is the melds with Mishra. Okay. So, I think this might nearly be S tier in an aggressive red deck. Cuz this is so good to refill a hand of an aggressive red deck. That's really close. It's definitely A. I would take it very, very highly. But yeah, potentially refill twice, absolutely. But I'm counting on the once at least. No, it's enter from the graveyard. It's not refill hand twice. It's enter. It's here. But yeah. So it's only refill once. Because in theory, you're gonna only get. But I mean, if you're saving your cards with unearth using some of the certain like enchantments, there's a 1 mana white enchantment with 2 and a white that you can exile this and put it back into your hand. If you've unearthed, you can save it, right? So that can make it happen again, right? But on its own, it doesn't come back from the graveyard more than once with this unearth. Oh yeah, it's good with blue too. If blue was emptied out its hand, blue tends to not empty out its hand in this set, I don't think, unless it's the blue-white soldiers, because I think it's the spells deck, which draws a lot of cards in theory, which it wants to put a lot of draw cards. So I'm not sure how frequently blue is going to empty out its hand, but I think it's still good. I mean, this is going to be good in any red deck. You're going to run this in every single red deck. I'm just trying to think if it's S tier. I think I want to say that it's A, but it's a high A. Skitterbeam Battalion, 5 mana 2/2 prototype, trample haste. When enters the battlefield, if you cast it, create 2 cope with Oh, those reanimation spells. I think this is a I think this has the potential to be a an S tier bomb if you have any reanimation spells in your deck. So, oh, if you cast it? Oh, screw that. Well, okay, so all right, it's not S tier then. So it's in a later game thing with power shard tokens that get up to 9, and you do this. It can end the game, definitely. 3/4/4 trample haste tokens out of nowhere for 9 is kind of crazy, and it'll be for fewer if you've been amassing prototype tokens. I think it's an A tier for that reason. Probably. All right, A tier. I got it. Perennial Behemoth. 5 mana, 2/7. You may play land cards from your graveyard. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, a 5 mana 2. So yeah, this is what the mid-rangey decks wants. I think this is a low high pick at the low end of high. You can play land cards. It's a 2/7 blocker at 5, and you can get it back. I think that this is, and since you're milling lots of stuff, you might want to be able to get those lands from the graveyard. So I think this is a lower end of high pick. And it's just really serviceable. And it's a beastie boy. All right. Rootwire Amalgam, 5 mana for a 5/5. Pay 5 and sacrifice it. Create an XX colorless golem artifact creature token where X is 3 times its power. It gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So you can put a 5/5 into play. The next turn you can pay 5, sacrifice it, and create a 15/15 colorless artifact creature token with haste. So you better hope you have that 1 mana enchantment that gets trample. And only as a sorcery, so you can't use this to like protect it. But the prototype, 2 mana for a 2/3 is already a good casting reward here. And then you can pay 5 to make a 6 something. Yeah, I like this. It's an A tier card. It's a very, very good card. That is quite nice. Simian Simulacrum. Okay. 3 mana, 2/1. When enters the battlefield, put 2/+1/+1 counters on target creature you control. So you could potentially have a 4/3 for 3. Already, that's really good. And unearth for more counters. Okay, so this is a high pick. This is an A tier card. I like this. This is really good in green. All right, Woodcaller Automaton, 10 mana, 8/8, or 4 mana, 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, untap target land you control. It becomes a treeful creature with haste and base power and toughness equal to Woodcaller Automaton's power and toughness. It's still a land. So if you pay this on 4, you get a 3/3. You can untap a land and attack for 6. Sorry, attack for 3, because this itself doesn't have haste. Yeah, it's a... You don't want to play it that early because you don't want to make your lands that vulnerable that early. Necessarily, but it does... It's for beatdown decks, it's pretty good. I think for mid-rangey green, it's not as good. The early part, the later part is better. 10 mana. 16 power. Yeah, I think this is a lower high pick. Or a medium high pick. I don't think it's S tier at all. All right. Clay Champion, X and 4, enters battlefield with 3/+1/+1 counters for each double green that was spent to cast it. And she has 2 other creatures you control for each double white spent to cast it. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of them. So you get 2 counters, and it's a 5/5 if you spent double white and double green and 4. Hi, Skill! So 8 mana for a 5/5 plus 2 1/1 counters. Or 8 mana for, or you can, this X could be like 1,000,000 green if you were mono green, or 1,000,000 white for mono white. So if you spent 8 mana and it was 4 white and 4, so the 4 could also be white. So it'd be, so if 4 mana for double white each, so that's 2 times the double white. So you can put a +1/+1 counter on up to 4 other creatures for 4 mana. So that the soldier deck wants that. If it's double green for 4 mana, you get, for 4 mana double green, you get an 8/8. That's crazy. Yeah, I think I've parsed this card now. Could be 4 mana for a 5/5. No, it's an 8/8, right? Isn't it? 3 times 2. And then +2. We're going to be able to play tomorrow. I mean, technically today in like 6 hours. We have the early access streamer event. Oh, you can't choose more than 2 creatures. Okay. I see, Lorman. So it'd be potentially up to 2 counters on those 2 creatures if you spent 4 white. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm running this if I'm at all heavy green or at all heavy white. I think it's A tier. High A tier. It's not S tier. But it is a very high pick. All right. So Blade Coil Serpent. Okay, X and 6. And this is going to have... Oh, okay. So this is the other 3 colors. The Grixis colors. All right. Yeah, I think... Okay, so drawing a card for the double blues each time is ridiculous. Holy shmee. All right. Yeah, okay. That one to me looks a little bit more potentially S tier in the black and the blue. I think it's very good in the red, but it's not S tier in the red. But I think in the black, if you're emptying out your opponent's hand with it, that's crazy. So it's 6, right? So if you spend all black on that, 6 black on that, right? Discarding 3 cards and then facing down a 5/4. Yeah, this is the closer of the 2 to S tier. So I like the blue and the black abilities are just, you know, ridiculous, right? A 5/4 and draw 3, right? That's crazy. For 6 mana. And then a 5/4 make your opponent discard 3 for 6 mana, also stupid. So whereas this is very, very good, like really impressive. I'm not trying to like downplay these cards. They're still all going to be in the high for me, which again, hard to make high. But yeah, I think this is definitely this is approaching an S tier if it's not an S tier. It's really high A tier. All right, Cityscape Leveler, 8 mana, 8/8. It scales forever, yeah. As long as you're mono colored for the most part, right? Because you're not usually gonna have 4 green and 4 white, right? Or 2 green and 2 white is a little harder to do too. Still good, still really good. Because this set does privilege being monocolored. Or at least if you're gonna be 2 colors, one's supposed to be a splash, it looks like. The fixing is just not that good at all. And there's a lot of payoffs for being monocolored. So yeah. So this one of the 2 has the more impressive abilities. I do like the white on this one. The green impresses me less. There's artifact removal at common. A lot of it. But this impresses me a lot because that changes the course of the game, those 2. The discarding and the drawing. Okay. Cityscape Leveler, 8/8. When you cast a spell, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller takes it. Yeah, I mean, it's just a useful card. I don't think it's a super high pick. Um, why does this not destroy lands, by the way? If it's a cityscape leveler? Flavor fail? Can I get a flavor fail in chat? Sorry. Does anybody else think that too? Is this, I mean, I'm just read it and I'm like, does it not destroy lands? It says non-land. I mean, ugh. Anyway, all right. I mean, it's perfectly serviceable at 8 mana, and again, the Power Stones get you to there a little bit faster. Meteor Golem grew up. But it's not Meteor Golem because the Flicker doesn't work. It's whenever you cast this spell and whenever it attacks. Bring back land destruction, you cowards! The thing is, I hate land destruction in EDH, but I understand its usefulness in like CEDH. So, but anyway, so and it was just whenever it attacks, obviously. So, that is huge and important. I think this is an A tier bomb, but I don't think it's an S tier. Just because of the prohibitive cost. Although reanimation spells are crazy, so you'd have to attack with it, but reanimation is nice. Million big robots, yeah. All right, Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter. Say that 3 times fast. 3, 1/2 flying flash. You may cast colors, spells, and artifact. Ooh, as though they had flash. That's nice. When you cast a spell, if the amount of menace you can, okay, so if it's a bigger spell, like it has essentially sort of evolve, but not for power, but for casting cost. I like it. It's excellent. I actually think this is a really high pick. I think this is an A. I don't think it's an S, but it's very good. Nice. Portal to Phyrexia, 9 mana. Each opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. Beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Oh, that's going to be fun in EDH. And it's an ETB, so you can flicker it with Portal. Circle. What is it? Teleportation Circle? Ooh. And Conjurer's Closet, right? Oh, that'd be nice. I think it's too prohibitively expensive in this, unless this is a super, super slow format. So I think that makes it a low high pick as opposed to a medium or high pick. So it's not A tier or S tier. I think it's like, I think it's like A minus at the maximum and only because of Power Stones, or Power Stone Shards rather, or whatever they are. Only because of that. Because 9 mana is so painfully like owies to pay. So meh. All right, Mightstone and Weakstone. Here we are. All right, so 5. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Draw 2 cards, or target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. So it's a 5 mana, 5 removal spell, which is usually what black or red would get. But still mediocre at common. Draw 2 cards. That versatility is nice. Add 2. Can't be spent to cast on. So basically, it's a double Power Stone. Okay. But isn't it like 2 Power Stones? And aren't the Power Stone Shards the one that? Okay, wait, no, Power Stone token. Okay, yeah, this is the Urza Meld. Understood. Yeah, I think the versatility on this makes it an A tier. I don't think it's an S tier. Otherwise, if it didn't have this versatility, if it wasn't like that, it would be lower. So, but it does accelerate you as a couple of Power Stones, and it does get you 1 or more effect. And since one of those effects is removal and the others draw a card, it's definitely A tier. I don't think it's A minus. I think it's A. So yeah, any deck ever, absolutely. The Stasis Coffin, 3 mana, 2, exile it. You can gain protection for everything until your next turn. Oh. All right. So, that seems useful. It's exile, not sacrifice, so it's not going to be recurring. So stop. Stasis time. You can't touch this. Okay, sorry. Moving along. Please don't unfriend me. Anyway, um, I'm not sure that this is worth the 3/5 expenditure. I think it's a nice thought, but it's kind of like a fog. It does get you that extra, I cast an artifact, but it's you, not your creatures, and not your permanents. So it's no Teferi's protection. It's like, I don't know. I I think this looks more interesting than it actually is. I think this for me is like a mid or mid-low pick. Sorry if people think otherwise. The Stone Brain, 2 mana, 2 exile the Stone Brain. Choose a card name. Search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for up to 4 cards with that name and exile them. This is a constructed card. That player shuffles and draws a card for each card exiled in their hand this way. This is a constructed card. You could run it as a sideboard card in best of 3. If you know that they have a bomb, you can side this in, name the bomb, and go for that. But I would not pick this highly at all. It's a constructed card. So, and if you know, like, if you've played your opponent and they have 4 copies of a crazy common that you just don't want to deal with. But usually I just don't think it's worth it. I mean, that's 4 mana to do that. Yeah, it's Jester's Cap. Okay. Thrawn Spider, but they get to draw cards too. That's not good and limited. Okay, so yeah, no, it's only for a bomb that you know that they have. I would not do, I would not do this highly at all. I think it's a low pick actually, and a sideboard. So, you can, of course, I believe, name basics here. It looks like name a card, right? You can name forest. You can search for 4 of the forests in their deck. But again, they get to draw for each card exiled from their hand that way, which, even if a player is playing predominantly, if they're playing a 2, you'd only do that if they're playing a 2-color deck and the 4 forests were their splash, and you're pretty sure they only had 4. Even then, though, they can usually play the rest of their deck. So you're giving them more cards for those. And so probably by chance, you're giving them more of the color that is their main color. I still don't think it's worth it. But yes, you can name basics. It looks like. So, Thrawn Spooter. 3 for a 2/4 reach. Nice. Okay. When it enters the battlefield, you and target opponent each create a tapped Power Stone. No, I don't want to accelerate my opponent. They get to use it before I do. 7. Look at the top 4 cards of your library and reveal an artifact from them and put it in your hand. I mean, that effect is pretty strong. And it accelerates you toward that. And it stops a little bit of early aggression really well, because a 3 mana 2/4 will do that, especially one with reach to stop the flyers. I like this card. I think it's a lower high pick. I think it's a A- as opposed to a middle high pick. It's not an A. But I think it is useful, and it can break stalemates here by grabbing those artifact cards. So yeah, I'm not. It might be worse than I'm thinking. It depends on exactly how powerful those Power Stone tokens are. But since it gives you both of you, yes, they get to use it first, but 3 mana for a 2/4 reach early is going to maybe make up for a little of that, and then the late game usage is really significant. So I think it's an A- or maybe a B+, but maybe an upper mid, but seems interesting. Okay, this you're going to take it if you're in green. It's not a really, really high pick, but if you're in green, you probably take it. This effect is good enough. That's the problem, is I think you take this card, you don't actually, like, you take the rares, right? So you're so, pardon me, rarely going to be able to meld anything unless you open both, right? Or unless somebody next to you, like, literally isn't in those colors at all and passes you one. So we'll see how many times we actually get to meld in this. We probably should write it down and do some sciencing. We shall experiment. All right, Fortified Beachhead. Enters the battlefield, you may reveal a soldier card from your hand and enters the battlefield tapped unless you reveal this. Oh, so this is like the Fairy Conclave, right? No, was it Fairy Conclave? No, it was the, things from Morningtide, right? Where if it was like it was tribal, so like your shoulder merfolk, it was blue-black, right? So this is the soldier version with white-blue, because there are so many soldiers in blue. I mean, in this set, yes, there are soldiers in blue, but overall, that's not a... Anyway. But yeah, this is a card you take, not highly, but if you're already in soldiers, you take it then. So it's a mid pick, usually, because you already have to be in it for this. Underground River, Painlands, I don't want them in my limited. You should go see Voxy's post on that on Twitch. It's fantastic. Blast Zone, that's lovely. I would absolutely pick that. Probably upper mid or lower high, because it's just so useful most of the time. If you don't have it, I wouldn't do it for an aggressive deck. Absolutely not. Because again, you don't really want Wraths in an aggressive deck. But in any mid-range deck, you're kind of going to need this to stop the soldier decks, I feel, especially in best of one. Hall of Tagsin, add a colorless one. So it's a Shimmering Grove or whatever the heck it is, that has these first two abilities. And then also you can pay 4 to create a tap Power Stone token. That seems useful. Not a high pick, but so lower than this. So middle mid or lower mid. But if you're mono, it's going to be easier to get value out of that land slot, so I kind of like it, and it can a little bit fix your stuff, so meh. Oh, Mistress Foundry. Wait, no. Yeah. Wait. It's not Mistress Factory. You don't pay 1. Wasn't Mr. Factory 1? So that's the difference. Hey, Mom! All right, so that's an assembly worker for our assembly worker things. It's still a manland. Manlands are always useful. It's probably easily it's first pickable because it goes in any deck. However, it's not an S tier. I don't even think it's really an A tier. I think it's an A minus, or yeah, it can't pump itself during the block. That's annoying. So it's worse by far than Factory. And it can't pump itself on attack because it doesn't have vigilance. Not that the other thing could, but it would have been nice to, like, if you don't have any other assembly workers, this ability is less exciting. All right, how many assembly workers do we have? Let's see. Is that like type? Let's see if that works. Eh. All right, fine. I'll do the advanced. Oh, it is the Trons only and this thing. All right. Yeah, someday I'm going to do all of this, by the way. Just warning you in advance, this is going to happen. It's not going to be good, but it's going to happen. And I'm just going to go assembly worker.deck.